Rain.
Welcome back, I'm Rain, and I'm joined by Chester, and we're going to be commenting this Phoebe Freeport Republic versus 404 Alliance Not Found match. And I know we still have quite a few minutes before this match will start, but I will introduce Phoebe Freeport Republic, who brought Double Typhoon, Oneros, Hurricane, Prophecy, Double Sweeple, Confessor, Hound, and Cruer. Chester, would you like to introduce 404?
Sure, bringing us back all the way to 2015 meta, 404 brings us with double Fleet Typhoons, a Flag Balgorn, Astarte, Onieros, double Cruor, double Punisher, and a Tristan to round out their composition. The Flag Balgorn, interestingly enough, did not warp at 0, which I think is a big misplay, because with links and the proper officer fit webs, the Balgorn has the possibility of webbing you from 67 kilometers away, which means that because you can only warp to the beacon at a maximum of 50 kilometers, the Balgorn can double web you the second the match starts. And to not do that when you have a Flag Bal seems a little interesting to me, but we'll let it go anyway. What are your thoughts on the Flag Bal coming out this early in the match, Brain?
Well, we have seen other flagships before with other matches, so I'm not too surprised. I am curious to see the fact that 404 Alliance actually banned the Balgorn just so they could be the only ones to bring a Balgorn, because obviously you can't bring a banned ship unless it is your flagship. So I find that kind of interesting, how I think they kind of give respect to the Balgorn, both because they have it as a flagship, but also because they banned it.
That's legit. I am looking at Phoebe Freeport, and I like how they have 2 Tech 1 battlecruisers to at least get some links going on, while 404 decides to go with an Astarte to at least provide links as well. Both teams opting for Onieros, so it's actually a pretty close-looking match, obviously with some differences. But this is, again, harkening back to old 2015 style with the Fleet Typhoons, basically with the backbone of the composition and then everything brought in around it. What do you think that this new Blood Raider, minusing like points on certain selected ships do for like this missile type of game that we're seeing?
Well, I mean, obviously people are bringing a ton of more Blood Raider ships themselves. Like, obviously you have to respect those Newton NOS power as well as the web effects bonuses that they get. I think I've seen Balgorns as well, at least from what I've been seeing and what I've been commentating on. If you notice here, a lot of people, I think Cruers have been actually used more than the Balgorn itself, and that's because the Cruers are very low in points, and then they're also very, very, I want to say good or very utilized for like E-War as a frigate and as a support ship.
You're absolutely right. You know, the Cruor, just being only 2 points, has a 25-kilometer web, and with links it goes to like roughly 33 kilometers, which for only 2 points is an absolute steal. Especially when you're looking at a big missile-heavy meta like this, having all the webs that you possibly can on a primary target is going to be really helpful. And, you know, Cruors are fairly survivable when they're AB fit, can fit a decent armor tank, so it's actually a really, really great purchase for the point. I don't see many Ashimus. Do you think that those are maybe worth it, or do you think Cruers and Balgorns? Oh, match is starting. Rain, what's going on?
So immediately, neither team is rushing towards or away from each other, because they warped in exactly opposite. And it looks like what they're doing is actually going out to the side. At least that's what Phoebe Freeport is doing. Immediately, deeps are upon the 404 Typhoon fleet issue, but obviously it's shield tank, or it's armor tank, so its shields don't really matter that much.
No, not at all. With the Typhoon fleets, it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to be utilizing their rapid heavy or their cruise missiles. The Phoebe Freeport team has cruise missiles on their Typhoons, while if you look at the 404 Alliance team, their Typhoons are rapid heavy, so this is going to be a big shift in how things are going here. So you'll notice that Phoebe Freeport is immediately applying to the bigger ships and just trying to use their cruise DPS to start taking them down, while 404 is aiming for bombers. So completely different attacks of what they're going to be doing based on how their Typhoons are fit. It's going to be interesting to see if Phoebe can keep up their bombers in order to make that pressure on 404 really hurt.
Yeah, so if you watch, this Typhoon fleet issue on 404 has been like consistently taking damage and then receiving reps, but this Hound took shield damage at the start, and then now it's just repairing armor damage. Like, I don't know why they're not applying better to it. It might be, I don't know, maybe slightly out of range, or maybe they're just not able to hit it. I don't know if it could be like overheating its AB to help mitigate some of that damage, but they're not, like, they're hitting it just a little bit, but it keeps repping all those shields, obviously, with the Oneros being the T2 Logi in the fleet.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. The Oniroses are still both okay, but you know what? This 404 Typhoon is actually going down underneath the combined Hound DPS as well as the Fleet Typhoons with cruises. They are not so good at hitting the support fleet, but excellent at applying damage to large battleships. And I'm curious to see if 404 is going to be able to hold this Typhoon up, because if it loses a Typhoon this early, it's going to be in a lot of trouble, because right now they're not doing too much to Phoebe. The Oniero's pilot on Phoebe, DMW, is keeping up their like spread out DPS on their light support wing very nicely covered.
Yeah, and now the Hurricane on Phoebe Freeport is actually taking damage, and I was a little bit confused because it looks like this Typhoon fleet issue on 404 is within plenty of range of this Oneros, but the Oneros wasn't able to rep through it, and it even had a swarm of bots. But now it looks like it's catching back, even though it actually took structure damage. But
So what's in? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say this Hurricane's still taking damage, but he's holding just fine with this Oneros. It doesn't look like they're going to lose anyone really quickly.
So the interesting thing to know is with 404 using rapid heavy fleet typhoons is they're going to have periods of firing and then 35 seconds of reload. And Phoebe, because of their cruise spoons, can just continually apply damage to the fleet typhoon, while 404 needs to be kind of careful with their choices. If they shoot 10 shots at a Hound or a Cruor and then decide to switch targets and only, you know, have 20 shots left somewhere else, they need to be very careful about target switching, and definitely about what their damage is, or like what damage type they're going to be shooting, while the Phoebe Freeport has a little bit more ability to be flexible because of their cruise missile choice. So this battle back and forth that we're seeing right now is just two different decisions on what missile types to use for basically the backbone DPS of each comp.
Yeah, and if you look, actually, 404 is actually killing the Phoebe Freeport Oneros. Sorry, I'm like dying in real life. So the Oneros is actually in almost half structure, and it's just taking heavy fire. And now, it's gone. So
see, that is huge. That is huge. The reason why Phoebe drops an Oneros that early, and the reason why 404 can apply that well, is because rapid heavies apply very well to cruisers, while cruise missiles off of Freebie's team definitely do not.
yeah, that's like a big detriment to Phoebe Freeport. So I think they managed to get the career on the 404 side, but that was not a good trade because that Oneros was vital to their support wing, as well as the fact that now 404 has a Oneros, but so they can obviously keep themselves alive while they just get to pick away at Phoebe's EHP.
You know, Phoebe hasn't really been going hard on the Oneros. They just lost their Hurricane now too, so there goes a few more links, but those should be easy targets. Without links anymore, Phoebe is a race against the clock right now. If this Oneros on 404 does not go down soon, they are going to be in a heap of trouble. But that Oneros has been basically webbed here and there intermittently, and a little bit of nuke pressure, but it's still been staying strong. And with cruise missiles, unless it is slowed down, webbed, and target painted, those fleet typhoons on Phoebe's side are going to have a hard time applying.
Yeah, and if you look, the Oneros actually is webbed and scrammed, as well as target painted and neutered, so they are going hard for this Oneros. It just doesn't look like it's dying quick enough because they're losing their own Hound, as well as their own Typhoon fleet issue, so they have to act quickly in order to trade and make it worth it.
Ooh. And now they're losing the Hound, so there's some more DPS down, and a Fleet Typhoon almost gone as well. Again, I just am wondering why all of these Confessors and everything that is orbiting this Onieros are still having their MWDs on. Like, Sadik has his MWD on orbiting the Onieros. He needs to be slow boating. He's not being targeted by anything. He needs to apply DPS. They need to get that Onieros down. It's finally down, but wasted precious seconds, traded it for a Fleet Typhoon and a Hurricane. Phoebe's in a bad place.
Yeah, for sure, especially since 404 still has their support wing alive. Obviously, like Punishers and a Tristan and a Kruger aren't going to apply much DPS, but they can really hold ships down, hold the enemy ships down, and allow for these Typhoon fleet issues to apply their damage, as well as maybe even allow the Balgorn and the Astarte to catch up and apply their deeps in the Balgorn web and newts.
I think that at this point it's just a killing field for 404. They're just going to clean up everything on Phoebe's side. They've lost their Cruers and Onieros, but, you know, with the second Fleet Typhoon on Phoebe's almost gone, I think that they're going to be cruising into the loser's bracket, unfortunately. I hope that Phoebe can come back strong in the loser's bracket and maybe kind of look at this match and kind of rethink some of their target calling or what they're trying to do, or maybe some of their compositions, because cruise missiles, while they are very strong, have some definite weaknesses that they maybe need to play around for next time. Rain, have you actually died IRL?
Oh my gosh. So I was pressing the wrong push to talk. So I was saying the only DPS they really have left is like what, maybe the Steeples, obviously the Prophecy, but they're not going to be able to do much, especially with this Balgorn and its webs. And so they're just gonna, I guess, be picked off at this point. They can maybe some of these other ships just to like, I guess, have an ISK loss. I don't know, maybe to like claim that they at least killed a little bit of something. But yeah, they've lost this one.
Yeah, 404 made a great chance bringing the Balgorn out, and it paid off in spades for them. They won this convincingly, and very nice play by 404. They had good target calling, and they did what they needed to do with the rapid heavies. They knew that they wanted to try to go after Onieros. They picked off a Hound that was a little bit out of position and dropped reps from DMW's Onieros, which was a great call. But otherwise, really well played by them. I hope that they can continue it on in the winners bracket, which is where Phoebe unfortunately will not be going. I think Phoebe could look a little bit at their composition, bringing 2 Tech 1 BCs for Lynx. That's a lot of points. It's a lot of ship slots for ships that are, not so great, especially the Prophecy. While yes, it has a nice tank with only T1 drones, it's minimally useful. Also think it's smart that 404 leaves it last because of its huge EHP buffer.
Yeah, and so it's good to note, like you brought up the flagship. So say 404 were to lose for whatever reason, say they lost, as long as they kept that flagship alive, they could still bring it back. But the moment it dies, whether they win or lose, then they can no longer bring that flagship. So it's good that they at least not only won the match, but then they can also still keep this flagship. And I'm watching this poor little Tristan take some damage. This Tristan also doesn't have a skin, so I think it probably should die. I'm not sure
Oh,
why
that's
you would
unfortunate.
fly
I was going to say that's a hero Tristan. He did well. He had his 5 light drones on and attacking primaries, all as well. But other than that, Prophecy now finally going down. MJD, it was legit. Very good way to die.
And so with that, we'll send it back to the boys in the studio.